So my talk today is something I'm calling the Madinah operating system. But before we get to that, let's discuss what it means to be an ummah. And so most people will think an ummah is the Muslim community. But if you look at the root word of the ummah, which some of my teachers have spoken about, it's the people that come together for a common purpose. They're aligned around principles. And that's why you will never get an ummah of Man United supporters. So, and I know I'm a Man United supporter, so unless you like to complain every weekend, then maybe that's the case. But when we think about it, Ummah Tech is a perfect name because we're coming together not to just meet, we're coming together for a purpose, to build better tech, to build a better society. And if you look at our history, I think sometimes we forget how amazing the seerah is. It was literally, the seerah itself was a miracle. It was Islam, some of my teachers say, Islam was the only religion that gave birth to a new civilization. Because the Arabs did not have a civilization. The Greeks, the Romans, they had civilizations, and Christianity was born into that. Whereas Islam came into a people that did not have a civilization, and then the civilization grew out of that. So that was part of the miracle. From Cordoba to Istanbul, Islamic civilization flourished. And we built systems of knowledge that influence the world up to today. We would not know about Greek philosophy if the Muslims had not translated the Greeks. So we had a very open approach to knowledge. I recently got back from Malaysia and I attended a professor there, Dr. Suhail Hanif, who presented a model of what he calls the Madinah blueprint. I thought it was a very, very, very powerful idea because it completely shifted my framing. And when we were trying to, we were planning for this event, we were trying to figure out the theme to draw it all together. And I remember this idea because I had spoken to a lot of people after that about it and explained the idea, and I thought it was so important. I watched all his videos online about it. You can find a link there if you want to find more. So basically, his proposal is the books of fiqh, how they classify it. It's not only a personal code of fiqh, it's also a map of how you build a flourishing civilization and a community. Right? At the bottom there, you've got the 5 foundations, right? On the left-hand side, you've got trade law. In the middle, you've got the Qadi. And then you've got, on the right-hand side, you've got family law. At the top, you've got Kitabul Jihad, which is the protective layer of the Ummah. So he calls this structured Ummah. And what the Prophet ﷺ built in Medina for 10 years was this. And that was his miracle itself. Right? And in Medina, there was a proliferation of roles. People were allocated to various different things. There was the person who would go and count this livestock to calculate zakah. There was the muazzin. So there was roles that were distributed. And his idea is this pattern that was created in Medina was just replicated across civilization in the Muslim Ummah. It was the same pattern applied in different situations, different contexts, and then just scaled up. But since we are a tech conference, I thought, okay, maybe we need to think of it as an operating system. At the bottom, you've got tawḥīd, which is the kernel. It governs everything. It drives everything above it. And if you understand operating system layered architecture, this is that. You've got kernel services, which is the foundation, right? So your tahara is like your authentication and state change, which gives you access to salah, which is sync and connection process. It's a protected space. Your fasting is like load management. Hajj is global sync and update. You move one layer above that, and you've got your trade, which is your exchange protocols, fair exchange. The family is group policies, and you've got a qadi who's negotiating, arbitrating between people. But what's interesting about reframing it as an operating system is you now have an application layer. And you see I've put a logo there of Ummah Tech. So Ummah Tech sits in the application layer of this Madinah operating system. And then we've got the protective layer at the top, which is protecting the whole community. And on the left-hand side, you've got your system policies. So if you, on an operating system, you have a system policy which governs everything, all the systems and all the services. And that is the maqasid of the Sharia, what are the higher objectives of Sharia? What does fiqh protect? It protects life, intellect, posterity, wealth, and dignity. On the right-hand side, you have community and networking, which is linking to other Medinas around the world. So Dr. Suhail talks about the core domains of Medina. He says, he's abstracted that, and he says the core domains are spaces, creating spaces for gathering, worship and learning. Structured welfare and taxation, like zakah, but in other contexts. A marketplace on the left-hand side, and family life on the right-hand side. And in the middle, you've got arbitration and justice, making sure the system is completely cohesive. And at the top, you've got a governance layer. So I thought, could we maybe take the same thing and apply it to Ummah Tech? And yes, we can. It's the exact same framework. We're sitting within the framework of Madinah OS. If you do some programming, that's called a recursion. And at the bottom there, we've got Ummah Tech principles. We've got a commitment from the community. This is a space where we gather to learn and connect with each other. We need to build some structured welfare systems. How do we distribute resources from people who don't have? I mean, we had students calling us saying this 1,500 Rand was too expensive. So how do we get those people to form part of our community? And then we've got to put some constraints, which is like your fasting, which is load management and throttling. And then global sync and updates, Shura, right? Maybe we build a community marketplace, and we have some group policies of how we negotiate with each other, and we have some way to resolve disputes between members. And then the layer above that, applications, it's what you build, right? And then we've got to have a governance layer, which is cohesion and communication, and system policies, which is the objectives we set out to do as a community. So this framework, let's call it the Madinah OS, can be applied to all our communities and to all our organizations. That's my proposal to you. And finally, I say we all need to become Medina builders. We need to develop the capabilities to build within us all. And these are designed around 7 archetypes, which you'll see we've structured the agenda around: the visionary, the leader, the architect, the teacher, the connector, the creator, and finally, the storyteller, who's going to preserve our knowledge and tell those stories. So, Bismillah. This community is for you. Let's build. And stay till the end. We've designed the program to be a narrative structure. You wouldn't want to miss half the story, and there's a nice Easter egg at the end for all the programmers in the house, inshallah. Jazakallah khairan. Welcome to Ummah Tech 2025.